very few people that I've spoken to who can go deep into this, and you've worked at NASA, and now you are investing in a lot of space tech companies. So from a layman's perspective, what are your thoughts on this sector? What are the opportunities here? If you can just briefly tell us about what it is. Or let's just go into details. We have all the time.
Well, thanks for recognizing that, because I've been a lifelong space buff since I was a kid. And so for me, it's been a dream come true, both to work at NASA and now to invest in companies that are, actually making a tremendous difference in putting things into space and literally being on the path to translating what we think of as science fiction to actual reality. So I think the sector is very interesting, and it's poised to take a significant leap forward because of a couple of things. One, of course, is the fact that technology has improved a lot, and obviously it's improving exponentially. But it also has gone to a point of inflection where we no longer think of space as the domain of nation states, where only big, large governments have the ability and the budget to launch things into space. This is something that private companies can do as well, right? And once that realization has come, that's also been a function of both cost as well as market. So now there's a tremendous appetite for, putting things into space, putting things that can unlock the secrets of Earth, allows us to communicate wherever we are and charge for it. So once the market opportunity became very clear, I think there've been a whole host of companies getting ready to serve that. But what has also been interesting is the technology underpinning that has gotten to, I wouldn't call it commoditizing, but it has gotten to modularization.
Explain that.
Yeah, so before, if you put something into space, one company or one country had to do everything, literally from rocket, boosters, engines, to payload, to telemetry, to monitoring, and even build the payload, which is satellites or whatever. Now you can actually purchase about, from 20, 30 different vendors, 90% of the thing. And so if you are good at doing one thing, which is, let's say you are good at wanting to build, analyze, and do something with ore mining satellites, right? You just go build that. And then everything else you can subcontract or contract out. So it's literally almost like a
automobilization.
Yeah. That modularization, and the one that I compare it more closer to is like AWS, right? The Amazon Web Services. Today, to build a company, I don't have to go buy a single computer other than my own personal laptop, right? Everything else is done by these service providers, from the company formation all the way out to all the compute and storage that happens. I think that's what's happening in space today, and it's accelerating even faster. And more importantly, the interesting thing about space is that it's transnational. It's not one country. So I can buy a rocket from one country, a satellite from a different country, ground management and telemetry from a third country, and all of those things come together, because this is, from the beginning, space has always been a much more collaborative arena where countries have had to collaborate. I mean, the International Space Station is an example. So this is a very interesting area. And one other concern that has reduced, which I think is also contributing, is things that go into space were always thought of as dual use potential, because unfortunately intercontinental missiles also have similar components to the same rocket that takes you to space. So there's always that concern. That concern seems to have reduced quite a bit, because now we have reduced the regulations around what can be put into space, and there's clear separation between what is an intercontinental ballistic missiles component and what's something that can put a satellite into space. And so once that fear goes away a little bit and it opens up this wide spectrum, I think a lot of innovative minds have started thinking about what else can we do, right? What should we be doing? There's also enormous opportunities. I mean, you may have seen this whole MH3, the flight that we lost, right?
Yeah.
This day and age, that should never happen.
Yeah.
Right?
It's still very difficult to understand that it happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
But the solution for it has existed for the last 15 years. We have the ability to have satellites track. I mean, if satellites are tracking us on GPS with where our cell phones are, why can't they track a big fat airplane flying, right? And so these are opportunities that are now arriving, that we can track pretty much anything there. Also, one other thing that people are realizing is the Earth is actually much bigger than we even thought of in the exploratory sense, because we have only explored the land masses.
Yeah.
The Earth is what, 60% or more ocean, and we haven't seen anything of what's there or what's in there, what's under there, and so on. And the space offers a very space-based view offers a very interesting way of exploring the world in some sense. So lots of opportunity, lots of excitement, and I think aspirationally people just get excited when there's new frontiers opening up in front of them.
Okay, so when we think about space tech, we think about Elon, SpaceX. Tell us beyond SpaceX what's happening.
So first, to give Elon all credit that is due to him, even though most people don't realize it, there was a lot of support that he got. First of all, his company was going to go out of business until the U.S. government gave him a $500 million, credit loan guarantee. And then a lot of the technology that is built into SpaceX came from NASA as well. In fact, a lot of my team members at NASA,
A lot of talent.
went to SpaceX. So to give all credit to, he had the vision and the ability to move that company forward with a lot of support, but that accomplishment has happened. And what that has proven is that this structure works where you can have a private company serve the needs of both government and non-governmental customers in putting things into space. So
today, a large percentage of NASA's payload is through SpaceX.
Yeah. So this was also a change in the U.S. government policy that NASA no longer be a place where true original research is done, but it be a place where money is distributed to private parties that can then do the work.
So in your time at NASA, this was not thinkable or imaginable.
Absolutely. In fact, in my time at NASA, money was directed to a very small number of contractors. You can name them in the fingers of one hand, and that people call that the military-industrial complex. There is a reason for that. But at that time, these were also folks who had demonstrated space capabilities. And so now that you have examples of private players who have shown that, I think we are off to the races. Now, anybody who has good, strong technology can prove that they can put things into space. We have investments in companies that are, without worrying about it, taking the risk of building satellites, building rocket launch vehicles, right? So I think we have gotten to a point where people are very excited by what they can do, and the governments luckily are at that place where they're stepping back, not being too worried about security and other concerns and so on. So it's a perfect positive storm of things coming together to allow this wave to happen.
But what are we trying to achieve, Sailesh? Do you think in this lifetime it is possible for humans to actually go to space? When I say humans, okay, first, why are all the billionaires taking these space trips suddenly?
Well, you have to be a kid to realize that every kid dreams of going to space who's been a science fiction fan or a space buff. And funnily enough, a lot of these billionaires, and when they were kids, were science fiction fans. So I think luckily they have the money now to realize their dreams. But billionaires aside, I think it's a.
Is it sooner than we think it is? Is the reality coming where we can have interplanetary travel?
I don't think it's sooner than we think it is, but it is coming. I think in our lifetime, maybe more so in your lifetime than mine, just to give myself a little bit of room. But I think it will happen, and it will happen mainly because I think the costs are dropping exponentially, right? This number is the one that most people doubt. It would take $1 million+ to put a kilogram into space, 25 years ago. SpaceX, on its first launch, brought that down to $100,000, which then currently is now costing them about $10,000 to $20,000, depending on the kind of payload they're. Our own, Agnikul and Skyroot, the folks here, they think that number can come down to $100 per kilogram. So where is 1 million and where is $100? If you have that kind of change in cost, I think a whole lot of things are possible. We've also, for the first time, started seeing companies that are showing us that manufacturing in space can happen. So creating space factories. Because zero-G environments are fantastic to do very fine-tuned assembly because things don't move. There is no dust. Clean rooms, well, space is one of the original clean rooms, right? So you can actually manufacture things into space. And once you have that capability added on, you don't have to lift everything from Earth. You build things in space, and then you use that as a way to transport it to other planets. So yes, I believe very much so in our lifetime, we will be traveling to other planets. We will have habitations in other planets as well.